Once again, first I'd like to introduce myself. My name's Robert Militia. I'm the technical support specialist, one of the technical support specialists over here at BrainMaster Technologies. Today we are doing the third installment of our webinar, which is the BrainAvatar software with Event Wizard. What we're going to be covering today are some of the basics of the Event Wizard, mainly working with the Loretta region of interest variables that we have going on with that, and then what we're really going to get into covering are some of the different functions and features that can be used with the Event Wizard, controlling variables as far as thresholds and things like that. And then the final thing we're going to be covering is basically how to use all these different controls and use them with some of the functionalities of multimedia player, DVD, and third-party games. As I covered already, and I'm going to cover again just to show everybody what we're going to be covering, is going to be found in the product manuals area. We have created documentation for a lot of the different things that I'm going to both be covering and some things that I'm not going to be covering. You'll find that by clicking the product manuals button, and then you'll find it right here in the area called Event Wizard. This document covers a lot of the things, as I said, that will and won't be covered. One of the nice conveniences shows the screen and basically some of the different controls that you can have out of it. The next area is the data dictionary, which is probably one of the most important things because this says what you can and cannot do in the data dictionary. So, to get started, one of the things I do want to cover basically a little bit more in detail than other things is the use in the BrainAvatar software of the Loretta region of interest variable. It's a very important document or item that people love to use, but there's a lot of confusion on how to use it. And I want to kind of cover first of all that there's no wrong answer. There are 3 different ways that you can use it, and any which one of those ways is perfectly sound to use. I was actually updating some documentation right before this webinar, and I didn't get it finished. But I will have it done actually first, probably about 20 minutes after we're done with this webinar. And this is covering the Loretta ROI, as well as some of the different ways that you can choose what region of interest you're going to be using. So for example, if we look at this, you're going to see the equation right here, which is x equals Loretta ROI, and then it's going to be defined as the band, or the region of interest, and the band. So, the region of interest you can choose 3 different ways. There's our original implementation where we had a single number that people can choose and use to basically control what region of interest or. There is also an indexed implementation, which basically all the lobes are together, all the gyrus are together, and all the Brodmann areas are all together. All the lobes are going to be grouped under the 1000 category. All the gyrus are going to be grouped under the 2000 category. And as I go down, all of the Brodmann areas are going to be grouped under the 3000 area. The final new implementation that we've done, and this is just not too long ago, is the graphical user implementation, which basically allows us to put a pound sign in the front of it and then actually spell out the letter. The more you spell out on it, the closer you get to being able to choose that. And this goes over all those different versions. But to make it a little bit easier for everyone, why don't I kind of go into the software right now and show you how to work. Just to let you know, this is going to be updated as a knowledge base entry. So, I'm going to go in here into the software, and I'm going to import a protocol that has some region of interest work on it. And what I'm going to do, I'll move over my screen right over here so you guys can see what I'm picking, is I am going to pick Z-score PZOKUL with ROI training for ANI. So that's the ANI database that we're going to be utilizing in this one. So I double-click that, and as you can see, my protocol has been loaded up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click the setup button so that I can start getting into this. And I'm going to go to the settings tab. And then I'm going to go to the Event Wizard. Now, in this protocol, we have done all the work under event number 6. Now, as you can see, the equation that we have in here is x equals Loretta ROI, and we're actually using the graphical user representation to choose this. Now let me show all the different ways so that we can see the different options. So I'm going to delete, I'm going to put in 1, and I'm going to put in 1. Hit the check equation button. You always have to hit check equation whenever you do any changes. This allows you to basically make sure that everything is okay. When you're doing that, you click it, it's going to let you know whether it's okay or not okay, and it's going to let you know some of the different functions and features that are some of the different things that could be wrong with it at that point in time. So I'm going to click OK on that. And now the most important thing is, as I said, on this screen, we can tell our original implementation is the frontal lobe. Now, how do we know the number 1 defines the delta band? We know that because if we go to our bands tab right here, whatever number is right here is whatever band it's going to coincide with. So as you can see, because we wanted to work with the delta band on this one, if we choose band number 1, the event wizard is going to know that. So that's the first implementation that we had out there, and there are protocols and that people have developed that are using that, and they can continue to use that. It is 100% valid and will work 100%. The other way, as I said, is the new indexed. So the way you can do that is by clicking in 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, and then still having the band as number 1 for our delta and hitting check equation. As you can see, the equation says it's okay, and that means everything is okay with this protocol. Now, the new interface that I was talking about, there's not much work you have to do with this. That's why a lot of people like it, because it makes it a little bit easier. And it just starts by me holding down the Shift key and hitting 3 to do the pound. Now this dialog pops up that has all of this information. It has your regions of interest and even has your bands on here so that you know exactly what you're choosing. Now you can make the list go a little bit smaller by typing in more. So if I did want the frontal lobe, once I hit F, it basically limits my list to the fusiform gyrus as well as the frontal lobe. When you're all done, you can click your thing and it places it right in. I can now also do that with my band. So when I type in BND and D, well, now we're down to delta. Now, one of the great things about using the software in this feature is I'm going to hit use these settings and close. I'm going to hit setup. I'm going to hit my settings button. I'm going to go to the bands. What if I wanted to change a name of a band? Our software has always given the capabilities of doing that, and it's just a nice feature that you can have on there. So let's just say I'm going to name this Theta, and I'm going to name this one Delta. So I'm going to confirm. You know what? Let's make it a little bit more confusing. I'm going to call this Thelpha. I'm going to call this data. Hit use these settings, go to the event wizard, go to our event 6. I'm going to delete this and hit my pound sign. Hold on a second. Let's go back in our software. Go to settings. Let's go to event wizard, event 6, delete. As you can see, it puts in a name for you. So there's our band Thelpha and our band Data. So basically, it links all the information, and if somebody happened to have a protocol that changed a name to something, and you still wanted to use that particular band, you don't need to know the exact name of it or the exact band number. It makes it a lot easier. Some different people use different names for different things, and this helps to make that seamless on that. So that covers the use of the Loretta region of interest. Another thing I kind of want to cover in this software are some of the new features that we've added to the event wizard to help kind of make things a little less confusing for the patient, a little bit nicer for you, as well as just nicer in general. And one of the things I want to cover in the Event Wizard that's a new feature. Settings, Event Wizard, we're going to go to tab 6, is the event naming right here. Now what event naming will do will give a particular name that you see fit for a particular event, and it gives that event that name. And it places that event name in various different areas that you can then utilize to help market. Now, why is this nice? Well, one of the reasons that this is very nice is that your client, when looking at different things, doesn't have to see a complex equation. Doesn't have to see, x equals Loretta ROIA frontal lobe band alpha, or doesn't have to see percent ZOK UL U third G third. They don't know what that means, and sometimes even you as clinicians, I know sometimes even me as a technical support specialist, don't really know what that means. So as opposed to having to put the exact equation is greater than or whatever, you can use this event name to say exactly what is going on. You can, for example, keep the simple ones that I have implemented in a lot of protocols that will just say, for example, like this one, ROI training. You can also choose to rename them, like lobe enhanced training, or whatever you really want to put there. So when I hit use these settings and close, and I go to my ROI training, as you can see, my text stats now say that. It doesn't say, is greater than. It doesn't say anything like that. It says exactly what I want it to say. Another place it puts it in, and once again this is a new feature to the software, is it places it in the actual thermometer. In the 3.0 software and the Discovery 1.5.9 software, one of the things we never had was the ability for a thermometer to basically show event training. This is a new feature that we implemented and is really, really nice because we have a lot of people who say, I love to do amplitude training because I can look at a thermometer and I can see when it's above or below the threshold, and I can tell my clients to look at the thermometer and, make it go above the threshold, or make it go above that little line right there, or make it go below that little line right there. It was never in the software before. Now you have that ability. And as you can see, depending on how long you say, it's going to say it in the thermometer right here. Now, for those of you guys who were in my webinar for the panel wizard design, you can tell that the way to get a thermometer to show an event. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to find these sets of thermometers right here, and I'm going to right click on them. And as you can see, the way you do that is to deselect any bands, select what events you want to display. Like for example, I'm going to add a new one. And then in this area right here, you're going to choose between them. Filters is going to display the filtered information, the filtered waveforms. Events is going to show the event information. So as you can see, it's now added my Z-score PZOK UL training that I have named right down here. That's how that works exactly. Another new feature that we have in the software, go back to the Event Wizard, is right here. The ability to play MIDI notes on a particular tab as opposed to whenever you go to each individual tab. Now, what's the nice feature of this? Well, for example, in this protocol right here where we're doing region of interest training and we're doing Z-score training, what it gives you the ability to is when somebody's looking at a particular screen, you have one form of auditory feedback, as well as when you're looking on another screen, you have another form of auditory feedback. They can basically be individually controlled for what you're looking to do on that one. It's a feature that not everybody has been fully utilized, but it gives you all the main tabs as well as all the client tabs to be able to control certain type of feedback trainings that go along with it. So that covers some of the new features. Why don't we now kind of take this from score? Yes, you can, Dr. Fannin. I'm going to now go over some of the basics as far as building in the Event Wizard and what they all mean and how to control them and some of the different things you might want to do with them. So thank you for that question. It's actually a very good lead-in for me to get into where I want to right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my setup again. I'm going to go to the settings. I'm going to go to my event wizard, and we're going to just work with the Loretto region of interest for right now. Most of you guys, I believe, know how the Z-score PZOK UL works. I think you guys have used it very well, and if you haven't, I do recommend actually going to the Stress Therapy Solutions webinar tomorrow that Penny Jean will be working on and covering about an hour on the clinical aspects of a lot of these things. But let's cover the basics of the event wizard. The first areas that we're going to be looking at is right here. This event is enabled or disabled. It means simply just that. If it's enabled, the software is going to be able to recognize anything that's going on, and it's going to be able to process that information. If it's disabled, it's not going to recognize what's going on in that. It is important to know whether or not it's enabled or disabled. The next area we get into is the event condition section. This is the meat and potatoes of the training right here. This is where we're saying what we want or what we don't want to do. And you can do it multiple different ways. One of the ways is to use an equation, which I was covering right there and is also covered in the data dictionary area of different equations that are valid. Another way is using some hard programmed actual things that are in there. For example, you have channels 1 through 4, and if I choose channel 1, you have your hardwired bands that are in here: delta, theta, alpha, low beta, beta, high beta, gamma, and user. And then you also have amplitude, frequency, percent energy, threshold, percent of time over threshold, variability, coherence, phase, similarity, correlation, and commodulation. Now, you may be asking yourself, okay, well, how can you really do channel 1 variability, or how can you do channel 1 coherence, phase, or similarity? If you're choosing channel 1, it's actually channel 1 versus channel 1 and channel 2, the coherence between those. So just as a heads up, that's what that is right there. For this equation, though, we're going to choose use equation, and we already have our equation in. Let's just make sure that everything is still valid by hitting check equation. And now, at the end of this, I can say what color do I want that to be. You got an automatic couple of different colors that you can have all right here, and you can choose any color you want. But be mindful of your background so that you don't choose a color that kind of contrasts with things that you're looking at. This color is going to be chosen for what you're going to be having on the event graph, as well as what's appearing in the thermometer. So you really want a color that's going to be standoutish compared to what you're looking at. So I am going to continue with a dark green, which kind of works really well with that. Now comes our rule. Very simple: is greater than, is less than, goes up and is above, goes down and is below. So basically what that says is, are we doing go training, are we doing stop training? And try and think of it as the simplest way of saying that. Now comes to the actual definition of the rule. Now there are multiple ways you can define the rule, and I'm going to cover a special implementation of the rule that we've implemented so that you can use the thermometers, the new thermometers for events, in a whole brand new way. You can technically use, as I have right here, channel 1 delta threshold. Now, what I'm saying right here is if we are using the event wizard and we are not using the touch button, amplitude style training, a go on delta or something like that, the delta threshold is no longer used for anything. So think of the delta threshold as just the D key. We have a lot of thresholds that we've built that have hotkey information. D for delta, T for theta, A for alpha, L for low beta, B for beta, H for high beta, G for gamma, U for user. If you are not training those here, well then the thresholds are completely free because we aren't using them for anything. They aren't being used for their typical style. So I've put it in right here. Another way you can do that is if I hit use equation, and as you can see I already have it in there. And I'm going to actually remove that times 100. I'm going to hit check equation. Dether, or as Dether stands for, delta threshold. Tether, theta threshold. Aether, alpha threshold. Elther, low beta threshold. Bether, high beta or beta threshold, H-ther, high beta threshold, G-ther, gamma threshold, U-ther, user threshold. Now, a lot of you guys probably know U-ther and G-ther from, once again, our Z-score trainings that we utilize, and know that, as you can see, we are using undefined hotkeys that aren't being used for anything in that Z-score training, so that we have an upper and lower threshold. That's the reason we chose those right there. Now, why would you ask yourself, if I can put in this equation right here, why was I in this choosing if use channel 1 delta threshold? That is because when we put use channel 1 delta threshold, we built in a special feature that allows us to use this little tab right here and drag the threshold up and down. So as opposed to just using the hotkey, which you still can use the D key, keep hitting the D key to raise that, you can actually use this to drag this up and down. So how about we see that in action right now so you guys can understand exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to go to Session, and I'm going to go to Simulation because I got no one hooked up. As you can see, we are ready to start. We are going. I am going to go to my ROI training. You see the ROI going. And I'm going to drag this up. And I'm going to drag this down. And one of the things I want you guys to notice is you're going to see this changing in a couple different areas. You're going to see this number changing not only on this white graph right here, on this thermometer right here, but you're also going to see it changing in value B right here. So once again, I'm going to drag up. And I'm going to drag down. Now, I am also going to hit my D key now, and you can see the numbers changing. I'm going to hit Shift D, and I'm going to lower them. So as you can see, you have full control over the software then to control your different thresholds on that. So now that I took that little intermission right there on this, I'm going to close my software, and I'm going to open up my BrainAvatar software once again. I'm going to go to Settings. I'm going to go to my Event Wizard. We're going to go to Event 6. So that's the event condition area. The event condition basically says, what do I want to do? And you define it with your if section of it and then your rule section. If you have, an if section and your rule section doesn't make sense or it's being used by something else, just realize that's going to cause some problems in that fashion. The next section we got is our event result right here. The event result says exactly that. What do you want to occur when that is at that level? So for example, right now we're saying, okay, so we're looking at our region of interest at our frontal lobe and the alpha band, and we want to say when it's greater than our threshold, our channel 1 delta threshold, what do we want to occur? So if we click this drop-down box right here, we can choose multiple different things. You can choose a MIDI sound. You can choose do nothing. I mean, plenty of times do nothing as an option. Play MIDI sound. Play a wave sound. A wave sound is just like your classic amplitude training, where it's a single sound, and it hits it depending on your sustain reward criterion and your refractory period. You have inhibit event sounds as an option right there. So that basically it prevents any sounds from occurring unless you are greater than that right there. You can also have the option of signaling an artifact. You can also choose to award the point counter. Now the point counter, as you know, is right up here. And with events, it doesn't work right off the bat. So if you want that to go, if you like the idea of letting a client know, look at how well you're doing, your score is 1,000, then that's going to be one of those options for you. You also have your award point for counter 2. Now, what people usually use the counter 1 and counter 2 for are different couples training. That's also used actually with a product that we developed called the Brain Track, which the Brain Track works with the Atlantis 2x2 and 4x4. I believe the 4x4 only, and it allows when criteria is being met, it allows a racetrack to basically launch and go around and all that. It was actually used in a BBC game show where they had scientists taking on, and scientists and scholars and all that taking on regular people as a kind of who's smarter. So it was actually a really cool thing. But that's what the second counter is used for. That's also what these relays are used for. Is actually specifically that brain track system right there. So I'm going to choose play wave sound. And the final thing you got right here is this option right here called Control MMP Player. What that does is that allows, depending on how you're doing right here, control of the DVD and multimedia player system. So if I want to say Control MMP Player right here, that means my criteria has to be met in order for full reward in both the DVD and multimedia player games. And that explains the event result area right here. The final area I want to cover right here is the event trend graph. Now you may be asking yourself, what is that exactly? Well, that's where we define how big an event graph is. I covered a little bit on this on the Panel Wizard webinar last week, and actually, just to let everybody know, those videos should be up by the end of the day so that you can go back on YouTube and visit those sites. But basically, the event trend graph says scale factor and offset. So scale factor says, how big do I want my scale to be? You can make it a scale factor of anywhere from 1 to 10,000. It basically just says how much area I want at where my what full area I want my thing to cover. The offset says where I want to begin. So if I have an offset of 0 and I have a scale factor of 80, that means I want my scale to go from the number 0 to the number 80. And you can define that, you can change that, and it's going to change the scale factor for different things. So for example, if I do a scale factor of 20 and keep my offset at 0, and I hit use these settings and close, and I go to ROI training, you're going to notice that this number changed. 20 to 0, and you're also going to notice that actually in our event thermometer right here, we are from 0 to 20. It's set up one more time. Settings, Event Wizard, Event 6. If I change this to 40, use now. As you can see, that number changed to 40, and that number changed to 40. So I'm going to put this back to 20. Hit Use Now. We've already covered our event name, so I don't have to really cover that much. Now let's get into the Sustain Reward Criterion and Refractory Period. The Sustain Reward Criterion says that conditions must be met for this amount of time. Refractory Period says that before another reward can be met, you are going to wait this much time. There are a lot of people who have different rules on it. Typical amplitude training is 500 milliseconds on the Sustain Reward Criterion. That's how long it must be met. And refractory period is 0 milliseconds, so you don't have to wait any time. I believe that Barry Sturman and David Kaiser, they believe in 1,000 milliseconds for a reward criterion, and that it must be time before another reward can occur is 1 millisecond or 1 second. So basically, they're saying 2 seconds. If this person is doing really, really good, it's going to be 2 seconds before they get another ding. They get, and then they're going to have to wait another 2 seconds, then they get another ding. There are no real rules behind it in a technical standpoint. The only rule is if you're using a wave sound in a technical standpoint, in order for a near continuous reward to be met, you have to move it more than 0 milliseconds. Now, for all of you guys using 4.2.13, I will let you know that one of the things in the software right now is that I can change this, but if I go back in, it's going to go back to the 500 milliseconds. In the versions that I'm testing right now and going through, it's actually corrected so that it's always in there. But if you've noticed that, oh, my wave sound is working, and then you go back in and you change something and you're like, well, why is it not working now? That's probably the reason. I really do apologize for any inconvenience that's caused anyone, but just know we knew about it and we're getting it resolved, and it should have that actually release out hopefully here by the end of the year. But I'm going to set this to 500 milliseconds for right now. Now, the MIDI sound properties. A lot of people have some difficulties with this, and part of the reasons is because you kind of need to know a little bit about music in order to understand how to do this best. But the way I can basically kind of best describe the MIDI sound properties is when you were younger or possibly a little bit older and all that. I know for me, I try to go back to my Casio keyboard that I had when I was a little bit younger. And that Casio keyboard, I remembered when playing it, you know, I usually hit the demo to pretend like I actually knew what I was doing on the keyboard. But when I wanted to play something, I noticed that there were some times that I could hold down the note, and if I held down that note, it was just going to keep going forever. It was just going to keep playing. And then there were some times that I would choose things like a piano, and I would hit that button, and I would hold it down, and it just dinged. That's how this system works. A lot of notes can be sustained, but a lot of them can only be hit one time. So you kind of got to play around with it and understand what type of reward you want for a client, and then basically try and go back to that Casio keyboard. Okay, well, I want a constant note. Well, an organ would be a really good one for that. Or there are other, you know, instruments that are basically known as a hold, you know, thing. From there, you can basically say also what you want it to be. For example, if you do want it to be sustained, you leave it like that. If you want it percussive, basically as if, you know, it's just hitting it over and over and over, that's when you would choose that. When it comes to your modulation, you got a couple different styles. Amplitude is changing the actual, the loudness of it. So it's going to get louder and louder. The pitch is going to change the note. On-off is just that. It's going to be one note, it's going to be on, and then it's going to be off. And then the final one is amplitude pitch, and pitch. Basically, it will not only get louder or softer depending on how you're doing, but the note is going to change as well. Once again, it's kind of a play around what's going to work best for your client on that. Here you can choose a starting loudness. 80 is about a standard one on that. Some people go 70, some people go 100. But 80 is usually a fairly good level. Then you got loudness change rate. How much louder do you want it to get depending on how they're doing? You can actually do it up to 20 steps. Same with the note change. As of right now, as far as a reward note, I'll have to get back to you on that one, Corey. I'll have to get back to you on that one. But then the note change rate on that is going to also be the same. You can change up to 20 notes. Musical scale. Major is usually a good one to go with. Blues is also a good one. It depends on kind of what instrument you're going to choose. The musical scale on that, A is good. You can. Once again, I don't know the best kind of things for that as far as what people like. And then you can choose play note, or you can choose a chord style. And then we got some more controls over here. And I'm going to really only cover some of the more important ones that are down here. And that's the ability to basically choose different, copying and pasting different events just in case you need to move them around. But that's the event wizard. The event wizard is usually to some people a very, very scary thing. It takes a little getting used to, and I'll work with anyone in the world to make sure that they can get exactly what they need out of it. I have a lot of experience with it. I've written the nice little document that you can go over when it comes to this, and I have a good feeling on what you can and can't do, and what you can do is virtually anything you want. So that's why, like I said, I'll have to get back with you on that, Corey, because like I said, I think that is something we can do. I just kind of want to play around with it before I say, yeah, you can do it. Now, one of the other things I want to cover are getting our event wizard to work with some of our games. There are two types of games out there. FlashPlayer, which is built by us, BrainMaster Technologies, and then there's the third-party games. There's ZooCore Grind, Somatic Vision has InnerTube and Particle Editor, and CIS has 3D Relief and a couple other suite of some different things that can be used for feedback. Our software in the Event Wizard works with all of them, whether or not they know it or not. And first I'm going to cover the BrainMaster FlashPlayer because that's the easier one. If we go to Event 5, and why it's Event 5, you can't ask me because I don't know, but Event 5 is where Tom decided that we're going to build in controls for the FlashPlayer. And he said that when Event 5 meets its criterion, then I'm going to send my message to the FlashPlayer, and that's what's going to drive it. Now, that makes it difficult. Right now, for example, in this protocol, we're doing 2 different types of training, and we're saying that I can only have one of them driving. That is not the case. Both can drive the BMR FlashPlayer perfectly fine. You just have to do a little bit more in order to make it work with that. And the way you do it is you're going to find what events are truly controlling as far as what your training is going on. And I can tell you in this protocol, Event 1, which is our %ZOKUL, Uther and Gether, and this one right here, Event 6, Loretta ROI-A, and then ROI frontal lobe, and band alpha. That is where true training is occurring. Now, how do I get both of those at the same time to control whether or not the FlashPlayer goes and stops? Well, what I do is I use an extra event that basically uses another feature that we built in called EXF. Now I say EX because E stands for event and X stands for the event number that you're talking about. So for example, in this one, I'm saying E1F plus E6F. Now, what does that mean to you? Well, what F stands for is flag. So when we say E1F, what we're saying is we're looking at our event 1, and I'm going to place a flag, and that flag is going to be a 1 if the training from the event condition is true, and it's going to be a 0 if the event condition is false. So E1F says that if my PZOK Z scores between our upper and lower threshold are greater than our C key, then E1F will give a 1. And if it is less than CT, it's going to give E1F a 0. That's what E6F is going to say. E6F says that if our region of interest training is greater than our threshold, then E6F equals 1. And if it is less than, then E6F equals 0. So, what this says right here is I'm going to add those together, and it's saying if E1F plus E6F is greater than, and I have use entered value 1.5. So what I'm doing in this event right here is I'm basically getting another flag ready. I'm saying I'm looking for a true or false. As you can see, I'm not rewarding when they're both there. I'm not doing anything other than saying I want to know when I have a 2. And you know that now by going to event 5, which is saying E7F. So when E1F plus E6F is greater than 1.5. So when these two equal 2, and it's now going to give me a 1, and it's going to be greater than 0.5, well, as you can see, now I'm going to do nothing here, but I'm sending that message to my FlashPlayer. And this is going to make my FlashPlayer work. And that is a very nice thing, and there are some fun games, and there are some games that you might get a little bored with, but I mean, you keep it simple with the brain cats or the planets, and it reacts with them. And I know some newer kids and all that, I mean, they aren't that advanced, or they're very, very advanced, and our games aren't that advanced. You can also then use that to say that all criteria has to be met for things like multimedia player to be successful. As you can see in Event 5, I did that. Let's say, though, you don't want all criteria to be met. Let's say you only want z-scores or the region of interest to control the FlashPlayer. Well, then we keep it simple. We say E1F for this protocol for z-scores, and we say E6, I'm hitting shift, we say E6 for the region of interest. And I'm going to hit my check equation. So now it's going to basically be only a single thing. But we need to make sure then at that point in time, if we want multimedia player to be controlled by everything, that our event 1 would now be controlling it, and then we would take this off. So now I have set up this protocol so that the event 1 and 6, so my z-score and my frontal, my region of interest training, are both controlling multimedia player, and both need to be required for the full multimedia player or DVD experience. But I'm saying if I have a FlashPlayer game, I only want my region of interest to control it. All right? All right. So now that's the basic FlashPlayer game. Now, what a lot of you guys are more excited about, and I understand because they're very, very, very excellent games, is utilizing...
Rob, can I ask a quick question here?
Yeah.
With the formulas, you were using like say an E6F plus an E7F.
Yes, E1F plus.
What if you did a minus? Does that keep it within a range, or does it make a difference?
Well, you got to think about what you're doing. All right, with the flags, what I'm doing is I'm looking for a 1 or a 0. So if I did for example, in event 7, if I did E1F minus E7F, now we're doing this. Let's just say both criteria are being met. So this is a 1 and this is a 1. So now we got a number 0.
Okay.
If this is a 0 because we aren't meeting it, and this is a 1, now we have a -1. So can it be used? Yes. The question is if it's going to meet what you kind of want it to meet. But yeah, you can do a minus, you can do a plus, you can do a times. I mean, you aren't limited on that. The only question after you kind of do it is just if it makes sense.
All right. Thank you.
Absolutely. Does anybody else have any questions on this before I get into getting third-party games going?
Yeah, Rob.
Yeah.
When you're setting up multiple ROIs, and so you need to set up a separate event for that, right, for the second ROI? Or can you add it on to the
if you're doing region of interest amplitude training as this is, you can add them together and then divide them by the number. So basically, if you're looking at 2 regions of interest, for example, you add them together, you bracket them together, and then divide by the amount of regions of interest you're looking at. So if it's 2, you're going to divide by 2. If it's 3, you're going to divide by 3, and so on and so forth.
Can you just show me what that would look like in event 6?
I sure can. If we go here. All right, so I'm going to put one more bracket parenthesis right here. And I'm going to go plus Loretta ROIA. And then hashtag, let's go with the occipital lobe, comma, band. I'll keep with alpha. I'm going to do a bracket close right there for that one, and then a total bracket close, because we have what's going on inside a bracket, so we're adding these together, but we also have brackets on each side. Divided by 2.
Okay. And then the so then the percent reward thermometer, the Loretta percent reward, will reflect the combination of those?
You got it. Because the way we've set that up is already, it's just E6P. So whatever's going on in that, as long as we're meeting our criteria, it doesn't care. It's going to give you the percent reward on how well it's doing or not.
Okay. Great.
All right. I'm going to move on now, and I'm hoping I'm going to cover this because I wasn't sure how long we were going to be taking on this. I know that you guys are probably busy. We got about 9 minutes. So if I go too quick for you, give me a call if you want to kind of get coverage on what I'm going to be covering right now. Okay. The final thing we're going to be covering is basically taking a protocol like this and getting it going for a somatic vision or CIS. I really wish I can get it running. I tried testing it already, and my computer was running way too slow to be able to show you guys how well this works with a thing like, for example, like ZooCore Grind. My poor test system just can't handle everything that I'm pumping out with it. So I'm going to cover it in the basics. Know that the product manuals does cover the basics behind this, and giving me a call, I'll cover it too. I've worked with a couple of you guys on getting these third-party games to work with it. I know Dr. Warner or Dr. Dr. Warner, I worked with you a little bit. I hope it's still going good for you. But we're just going to kind of run through it and get these things going.
That's great, Rob.
Oh, excellent. That's what I like to hear. The first thing I want to say is that third-party games don't like to know what our event wizard is. They released most of their games before it came out. Different games like to have like different styles set up. So because of that, none of them really know what our event wizard is, nor do they really care what it is. Now that makes it difficult for people who want these third-party games to work with things like z-scores, to work with things like region of interest training, because not everybody wants to just run it with alpha or delta or low beta. I mean, it's nice, but it's not what you want it to do. Because of that, we put in a workaround. We put in something to say, okay, fine, we're going to make it work for you. And the way we do that is there's a couple steps that you need to do. The first step you need to do is go to our display tab right here. In our display tab, we're going to go all the way to the bottom, and we're going to see this link called DLL Memory Mapping Road. And what this does is use emulation mode to external games, somatic vision, CIS, etc., being ZooCore, via event wizards, not events 9 through 16. What does that mean to you? Probably not that much, except if I click emulation, and I use these settings, and I go to event wizard. What we have done now is we have said that for those games, ignore this. You are not going to use the goes, the stops, the ignores to control the game anymore. Instead, event 9 is the delta band. Event 10 is the theta band. Event 11 is the alpha band. Event 12 is the low beta band. Event 13 is the beta band. Event 14 is the high beta band. Event 15 is the gamma band. And event 16 is the user band. So, what does that mean exactly? Well, if I go to event 1 and I hit copy event and I go to event 12 and I say paste event, I uncheck this and I say do nothing. Well, now the event's going to work. Now the event is going to be driven, and now the event is going to be doing things. But it's not going to actually be making any reward sounds or anything like that. Because what we've said is event 12 equals the low beta band. So it's saying if low beta is greater than a threshold. That's what we've done right there. And so now Somatic Vision InnerTube will react with anything that you have set to low beta. So in the custom control area, if you choose, low beta for the different reactions and all that, whenever the Z-score PZOK is going to go good, it's going to drive that. In ZooCore Grind, it's now going to be the reward band, and it's going to drive that. And it's going to react. So that's what we've done right there. Now this is one way of doing it. If you do it that way, is perfectly fine. Another way that we can get it to work with that third-party game is I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to say E1A. Now you might ask yourself, what does E1A mean? E1A means I am looking at the antecedent of event 1, also known as the if rule area. So basically what this is a copycat of this. So you can copy the full event over, which works perfectly fine, or you can say EXA, where X refers to what chan or what event number you're working with. Same with down here. If I say E1B and I hit my check equation, it's going to look at the rule portion, which is right down here, which would be X equals CT. So those are the two ways that you can do things like that perfectly fine. Is there a wrong answer on this? Well, the wrong answer is if you have in this event result area, you have maybe something that contradicts the training that goes along with it. That would be about the only way that you can really say that it's going to get you a wrong answer. But doing it either which way of these ways works perfectly fine. You want to have your region of interest also being affected there? I can do the exact same thing, copy the event, and then paste it to the one I want to. Or I can go to, for example, event 14, which is high beta, and I say E6A, check equation, is greater than E6B. As I said, I would really love to show you guys right now how this looks when running, but my computer kind of can't. My computer kind of doesn't like me. Now, one of the things that I almost did as far as a big no-no, and I would have wondered why my high beta isn't working, and that's I almost forgot by doing this to enable the event. If you don't enable the event and you leave it disabled, it's not going to work. As I said, that's why that's important right there. So if I hit use now, the event is now ready to go. Now, another thing you might notice is as you add events and things like that, some of your customized screens are going to start having more information, and you just have to remove those. So I right-click on my tab right here that I was going over with the panel wizard. I right-click right here, and I remove, oh, that's going to be even more difficult, but. And then I right-click right here, and I remove those. So that's how you get the third-party games all fired up with our BrainMaster avatar software in the Event Wizard. And that's the basics of working behind it. Once again, am I able to go through every single little bit of detail right now? No, I got an hour, and I'd probably need a day to go over that. And I don't think my voice can handle that, honestly. But that's the basics behind it right there. You guys got any questions? You guys want to ask me something? You guys want to know something? You contact me, all right? Support@brainem.com, 440-232-6000. My extension is 211. You can also contact Ashley at 207. We'll get you going on some of these different things over here. I'm cutting it near the end here of our time. Do you guys have any questions, anything you want to go over? Okay, well, I guess if nobody has any questions or anything like that, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the day. And for those of you guys who are going to be in it, I will talk to you guys in the fourth installment of our webinar, which is going to cover the one that's never used, and that's our Session Wizard system. Other than that, you guys have a great day now, all right?